Alright, welcome back. So since I decided to take a little break from character stuff, I thought I'd talk about my roster and where it's at right now before Brel shows a heart. So first off, I have my Shadowhunter. This was my original character. This was my main. I actually made it just because it was the closest to the Scouter. I really just like the concept of transformation classes, and I thought they'd be cool. I didn't really think too much about anything else. I just liked flashy stuff. And I loved install characters for fighting games, and I also like Devil May Cry, which, you know, transform, throw out big demon hands. It just fit. So as of last month, I actually switched it over to Perfect Suppression. Now, in my transformation video, I talked about how I probably would never try it, or I never would, but pre-Golden Frog, DI books for like 10k, and I wasn't willing to throw that down for 5x3. Well, I could set up a Perfect Suppression build for about 20k in total for everything, and I'm talking high quality gear, like 90 plus quality. So it felt like a good choice, a corporate choice. It took a little getting used to, but honestly, it's probably one of the more comfortable back attackers I've ever played. I would kind of say it's on par with Taijutsu Scrapper as far as movement and comfort goes. Next up, we have Arcana. I already made a whole video about the class, so I'm pretty sure you probably know I play Emperor, and I did start off as Emperor, but I switched to Empress, 2 different builds of Empress, and went back to Emperor. It's pretty much the closest thing I have to a meta DPS. It is my strongest character, and actually, out of my damage dealers, it's the most fun, easily. It was a class I was excited for when it came out, and it did disappoint. But there were times when I was Empress and I wasn't confident that it was a class for me, but luckily with the revamp, I went back to Emperor, and yeah, we know how this ends. Now, Bard on the other hand, I didn't make this character right away. It was a character I made a little later, somewhere about mid-Vicus, once I realized that all my friends refused to play supports, and well, we were doing 4-man clowns and all DPS. But now, even with a DPS shortage, it is a main in my roster, and I plan to keep it there because I enjoy the playstyle, and it's just kind of enjoyable to have that kind of different playstyle, as opposed to, you know, just being a DPS goblin. Next off, we have the current main, which is the Scouter. Yes, I main Scouter. Now, even though I said Arcana is the most fun class that I have right now, I still main Scouter. It's a nice class to prog with because I get the shields. It's selfish, yes, but I guess there's no but to it. It's just something that's comfortable and something I enjoy playing. I do agree the class does have a good amount of flaws. You know, its main damage attack being tied to its counter when transformed is pretty awful. Just like its normal damage output, it's not great, but in exchange, I get a lot of comfort with the shield. Then we'll jump to the last DPS that I have in my roster 6, which is Gunslinger. I play another off-meta build, which is Time to Hunt, another Swiftness build, and I'm gonna be honest, I was El Cheapo. The reason why I picked Time to Hunt Swiftness is because the build is cheap to make. I wanted to give Gunslinger another shot because I played it near launch and I played it up until the Argos time, and I had the stupid situation where I wasn't properly set up with it, I didn't have the knowledge, and I sucked with it, and I just didn't like the class because of it. But now going back to it, I had enough fun with it that I put it back on my roster. The downside is, since it is a recent edition, it is, well, a recent re-edition that I didn't run Chaos Dungeon on it too often. It's in Shard Hell, like it's gonna be a while before it gets to 1550. And that leads us to Artist. This of course is the latest addition to my roster, as it is just a release class. This character has been so damn lucky. I have it to 1540 and I have not pitied on it once. Now that I've made a video talking about it, once I make this weapon, it's gonna pity, and it's probably gonna pity every damn time. But until now, or until then, it has been a very good character to me. And just like Gunslinger, of course it's gonna be in Shard Hell. I had to buy shards for this character to even get it to where it's at. But yes, this and Gunslinger are gonna take a slower time getting shards naturally and pushing them up from there. But you know, it ain't over. If we look down at the bottom there, this ain't the only page. So page 2 is the characters that didn't quite make the cut. These are characters that I put a decent amount of work into, but for one reason or another, you know, they just didn't make it to the 6. We're gonna head off this page left to right, starting off with Paladin. You know, Paladin is a nice, comfortable support. Like, it is the least amount of effort required, and you get good results with it. But we're in a DPS shortage right now, so I decided not to run 3 supports and run 2, and I just found Artist and Bard to be more fun, even if they do require more work. So yeah, that's why he lost the spot. Now Glavier, this is a character I, like many people, were pretty hyped for. It was in my main roster up until around Clown, and that's when it got replaced. I thought I was actually going to main it for a while, but the more I played it, the more I really didn't like it. And the main reason is because I didn't like how it worked. I didn't really like the stand switching mechanic. I thought it was neat, but I also didn't like being blue balled into one by a mechanic that comes up. Overall, it was the same feeling I had with transformation classes of transforming and then something happens, and I really just didn't want that feel on another character, and I really didn't want to switch to control either, because I figured if I wanted to play a back attack martial artist, I would play something else, which kind of leads to the one to the right. But real quick before that, I just want to say that even though people don't really think too highly about Glavier, this class has a great kit on Pinnacle. You have 2 counters, you have a parry, you have a good movement skill, you have good options as far as ranged and close range goes. It is a very flexible class. So yeah, Scrapper. I started it off as shock training, and then around the time I was moving it on to Bolton, I needed to make an actual build, so I switched to Taijutsu for the price of it because that spec life is expensive life. And I thought, you know, I'd go back to shock sometime. Well, come the launch of Brel normal, I actually did switch back to shock, and well, I actually ended up liking Taijutsu more, but I didn't really want to pay for going back. I invested in the books, and it was still expensive to go back to Taijutsu. So this left me at a bit of a roster crisis, and that's what actually opened the door for me to try out Gunslinger and start to really enjoy that. Maybe one day I'll switch it back to Taijutsu and play it some more, but alts, you know, pushing, especially out to like Brel hard and stuff like that, past that is super expensive, so I don't know. Now Summoner, yeah, I love this class. Like, this class does absolutely everything. It has destruction, it has good stagger, it hits out damage, easy mode PvP, just throw and you just throw out that Phoenix. You're basically like cooler Sork because you have all this stuff, and also your kit, you always bring a counter. You have it in there, you don't need to swap it out for damage. This class has it all, and not only that, but it is so flavor of the month, everybody loves it, that you can still sell tripods on it for a really good price. Like NAE, I probably sell some tripods up to about 9k. Still, that being said, that is exactly why it never made it onto my primary roster. I wasn't willing to dump like 20k on Master Summoner books when it was relevant for me to consider switching, and then also the accessories. Like, it wasn't within my budget, but it is a character and a class I truly enjoy. And if you want a class can do absolutely everything besides healing, Summoner is it. I have nothing but praise for this class. Reaper was another class I was very interested in on launch. I wanted to give it a shot. I wanted to try it out. And overall, you know, the skill set it has, it's fun. I do enjoy the movement of it. I like the ability to go through the mobs really easily. It's really good for repositioning back attacks. However, I played Hunger, and the Hunger flaws are the same thing I had with Glavier and the same problem I have with transformation classes. And that's, I have to constantly keep this meter up, and then when a mechanic comes out, and there's not every mechanic I can spam skills and nothing and keep it up, I'll lose those stacks. It's basically like a more annoying adrenaline. On the plus side though, its tripods do sell pretty decently still, so it's a good corporate character to have, but it's no summoner. Then last on this page, we got the War Dancer, the old super monkey ball. This is a character that I only went back towards recently just out of curiosity, because this is one of the characters I had that everybody said is good, but it requires the dedication of getting a set and setting it up properly. And also, I kind of want to try out more martial artists a little bit more, because I went through Glavier and Scrapper and took them off, but I was like, well, what about the other two? It's a 3-spender ESO with a split stats, and overall, I think it's really fun. I mostly went to this build because it was cheap, because I could get some Swift accessories. I only needed a level 1 class engraving, even though I should have a level 3. But I figured if I do stick with the character or push it anymore, I'll actually probably switch to First Intention. I don't know, the playstyle is just kind of more interesting to me to just be a piano. And lastly, we got page 3, the 3rd string characters, the ones that never quite got the love. Soulfist, you know, I had a horrible experience getting up to level 14, 15. Like, it was pretty miserable in chaos. It didn't perform well. It's a class that, like War Dancer, I heard it performs and it's really fun once you set it up, but I never put in that time and effort into it, just because by the time I really wanted to do it, I had too much to do with other classes and other characters. Artillerist is kind of a class that if I were to be able to replay Lost Ark from the start, like fresh with all the knowledge I have, I probably would have played that over Scouter as my main. But, you know, it's a little late for that. You know, it's a character I run Chaos Dungeons on event to slowly push it, but it's not a huge priority. I don't know, I just think Wheelchair is just easy fun. It's good and it's a better transformation class. Let's go with that. Then we got Sork. You know, this class was fun at the start. I played it on my roster until like Vicus normal, but I really started to lose my fun in it, and it just slowly just became a low paying alt. I don't know, something about it that just didn't click, especially after Summoner existing and playing that. There's just no reason why I would ever play Sork. And we got the Berserker. This was an initial roster character up to like Oriha dungeons or so. It was a just cheesy alt to have back when we had green potions doing full heals. But just like Sork, you know, I don't think I'm ever going to touch this character again, really. He's on low paying. I'd rather just wait for Slayer. Lastly, we have Deathblade. Now, I almost mained this, but after doing a little research on how similar DI was to Evo, I decided to main Shadowhunter, just because I figured setting up the runes and everything like that, if I focus on those for Shadowhunter, I'll be set for a Scouter with the Copium take that we would get Scouter some point soon near launch. Obviously that didn't happen, and beyond that, I don't know, something with this class that just never really took off for me. It's kind of in the situation where that if I could invest in the character, try it again, I would, but man, managing these 6 at the start now, that your gold 6 is rough. Like, this honing ain't cheap. And that's about it for the characters I have. Now, moving forward, yes, you can see there's that specialist there. I will be turning that into an Airmancer, playing that. I have intentions to play Slayer and also the Scythe class. With all those being said, yes, I'm gonna have some roster crises going on in the future. Not including how expensive all these damn books are gonna be. It's gonna be rough. As things stands, my original intentions were to swap out my Shadowhunter for Aeromancer, and then I was actually gonna swap out my Scouter for Slayer. However, this damn Scouter rolled a 97 weapon and a 970 rock. So this bastard is really trying his best to stay on the roster through any means necessary. Now, it might be weird to think that I'd be dropping Scouter, but I have my reasons. As stated, I'm not like 100% happy with the class itself. I don't really like the drone skills that much, just because they have a good chance of missing because they just take a little startup time before working. Then there's that common theme within my roster where I don't really like it when I get cucked by mechanics and then I lose a lot of my time. Slayer's Predator Engraving just seems like a better designed transformation class. With good uptime, you get more time to your transformation, and then also the longer you transform, your cooldown to your next transformation is shorter. So you don't have to worry about a skill missing to get your gauge up. You're just gonna have it once your exhaustion goes down. And in a sense, you can extend your duration, not forever, but you can still kind of keep it out to the next mechanic, hopefully. And then during the mechanic, your cooldown will come back, and then hopefully you can transform pretty soon after. The overall design of it is just more appealing to me. And yeah, that's it. That's my roster. Those are my characters and kind of my plans moving forward. Just thought I'd share them. That's all. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.